for us, it was a no-brainer to get involved in the league here. In terms of selecting a club, we were offered at the time Al Oraba, Al Kholood, or Al Kholood. We chose Al Kholood of those three. We are really excited about the upward trajectory of this league. I mean, obviously it's now the fourth highest league in terms of salaries globally. It's a league that, you know, was once seen as maybe a retirement league by a lot of folks, and now we're actually starting to see players redirecting their career path to come to us very early in their career rather than staying in Europe. It's a country that's going to see a huge amount of investment in sports. So ahead of the World Cup 9 years from now, we just see kind of this upward trajectory. I also think that Saudi Arabia benefits from kind of being a late mover here. You know, the European leagues are very set in their ways. You can't change or adapt anything there. It's really, there's so much fan pressure and so much kind of incumbent establishment that there's not a lot you can do here. We can be more experimental. We can try new things with streaming. We can engage new underpenetrated global audiences. We can change the way we kind of do football. And so it has that kind of really high growth, exponential kind of curve that we really like to see. And so first and foremost, really love the region where it's based. Al Qasim is a region where everywhere you go in the country, you meet people from there. There's a huge amount of affluence, a great diaspora, a lot of growth. Very central to the country, so easy for us to pop around. We have many clubs in our near vicinity that we're traveling towards. It's also a club that has a relatively fresh experience in the league. We liked that. We liked that it is kind of a smaller fan base, newer to the league, so that gave us, again, the ability to be very experimental. If we took over a really big club with a huge amount of fan expectations and tradition, it'd be a lot harder to kind of adapt the club. Our view is the only way we're going to compete in the league today, which is stacked with the Big Four owned by PIF, and then all the mega project teams in Niam, ultimately Al Ula, Diriyah, and is by being really out of the box and thinking differently about how we build our academy, how we build our brand, how we present ourselves to players. And I think this club offers us that kind of a more flexible infrastructure to build around. First and foremost, we need to establish ourselves in this league, and that's going to be a fight for survival. So day one objective is stay where we are, don't go down. After that, what we're trying to build is one of the best clubs at our kind of budget and tier within the table that has the best infrastructure, best coaching, nutrition, sports science, data science. And so that means for global as well as domestic players, they want to come play for us. They know that we're going to make them better players. We're going to train them. And there's almost going to be an Al Kholood brand, the way there's a Red Bull brand or, you know, other really important global multi-club groups where players from that group are known as a kind of a branded commodity and something that is really valuable and desired by their clubs. Because ultimately, the only way we're going to compete with the big boys here is by being a talent factory. We've got to produce young Saudi talent that can ultimately be sold into Al Ittihad, Al Ittifaq, others. We've got to develop a youth system that trains our academy and brings people in, not just domestically, but from around the world. And we've got to be able to, again, attract a player that doesn't come to us because we necessarily pay the highest salary, but because we treat them with a high degree of international standard professionalism, training, equipment, infrastructure. And we think we can achieve that, and that will enable us to ultimately, in the long term, compete in a really, really dynamic and challenging league. Yeah, a lot of similarities actually, and some big differences. Obviously, Cadiz has a team that has a lot longer history than Al Kholood, a much bigger fan base. You know, we have 25, 30,000 people in our stadium every game. We have, you know, a history of playing about, 7 seasons now in the first division. So we're accustomed to top tier football in Cadiz. In Al Kholood, though, we face similar conditions. So first, Cadiz was oftentimes one of the lowest payrolls in the league, competing against the big boys. There were seasons there where we had a 45 million euro payroll and we were competing against 860 million at Real Madrid and slightly below that at Barcelona, Atletico de Madrid. So we've got to, in both instances, know how to do a lot with a little and be very thoughtful about how we select players using data science and, again, a great scouting infrastructure to identify talent that's missed or undervalued by the rest of the market. The second thing is the same experience we'll have in both clubs is building a global fan base for a product that's relatively unknown. Kholood is not a name that's globally known. It's a team that was relatively regional. At Kholood as well, you'd meet people in Saudi Arabia that have never heard of us. And so in both instances, we've got to really take our message to the streets, be evangelists for our own cause, and take this both domestically as well as internationally. And so in Kholood, we took a social media following when I joined of 500,000, and we took it to 18 million today. We have some of the most followed social media accounts in the Middle East, China, other kind of high growth markets. And we're going to do something similar here at Kholood. We're going to bring it to the highly unpenetrated markets in South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, parts of North America where I'm from. So we're excited to kind of do the same thing for Kholood, which is to build many more followers virtually and internationally than we even have domestically. The bad news is it's getting really hard, and it's really getting really good. So we're going to have to continuously up our game as well to compete. This is not a league where you can bring a bunch of second or third tier players from around the world and at least avoid relegation. I remember when Cristiano said that it would be a top 5 league in the world, and people kind of rolled their eyes. And fast forward to the Club World Cup this year, and you have Al Hilal beating Manchester City in a really fair fight. My view again is players are now starting to come to this league not only because of what it was paying, but because of the quality of play. We have an incredible number of players this year coming to our team that would have been very happy playing in the upper echelons of European football, but recognize that now the level of competition they'll get here and the number of eyeballs from around the world on this league are at such a level that it makes sense from them from a career perspective to come here. Well, the challenge is that we're competing against clubs that haven't yet gone through that transformation, right? We're competing with clubs that are okay to still burn a lot of capital and buy a player for 80 million and sell him for 20. So that's a very challenging prospect to compete against because we have to balance the books at the end of every season. We cannot lose money. It's not an option here. And the reason why, in their wisdom, the Ministry of Sport brought us in is because I think they understand we'll run a financially sustainable club. We will find ways to increase revenue streams beyond what exists through TV sponsorship and other subsidies. And so there's a lot of inflation around salaries. And so again, when that salary inflation hits the rest of the league, someone else can absorb it, but we simply can't. And so at the end of the day, this is for us essential that we find sustainable ways to compete against those larger players. Well, I've been a fan of Nigerian football for a long time, and at Kholood we built a more than 50,000 Twitter follower account just dedicated for Nigeria, even though we didn't have a player on the team. And so for me, to have someone like William on my team is a dream come true, and more importantly because he's a tremendous human being. He's a great leader, he's very mature, he's seen everything, he's played everywhere, and as a club with the kind of instability and challenge again that we're facing at this handover, he is absolutely essential to that. So we certainly spend more talking with him than most and asking him, which he's doing, to play this role as kind of a ballast to stabilize us and balance us during a really challenging time. That's the number one thing he provides today, is that maturity and leadership in the locker room. In the future, we're excited to find ways to activate him and engage with his fans in Nigeria and around the world. These are, again, a market that we love and we think is very high growth. Football fanatics, and so the more we can do to engage with them and work through Williams' channels, we will be doing. We wanted to be thoughtful and fresh in injecting some new flavor into the brand. This is a club, again, back to that point about it being a new club with a lot of flexibility around it. I think we've changed logos 3 or 4 times just in the last couple years. So there was no kind of crest that we were wedded to. And so building off the rebranding, I think you're going to see some really cool jerseys. We really like aesthetics. We've seen what other clubs have done to make themselves both a footballing and a sporting entity as well as a lifestyle entity. I think when I got to the club, we were making about 17,000 euros a year in selling jerseys. We're now well over $1 million, and that's because we introduced lifestyle brands, we introduced retro jerseys and all kinds of other cool things. So, and those again appeal to people around the world. You see people wearing jerseys for a club they've never seen in person, and will probably never see in person, just because they like the look and feel of it. So you'll certainly see us reaching out into other channels, bringing in new digital avenues to introduce, again, this product to fans around the world. They're hungry and they're underpenetrated and they are almost unloved. What we found is a huge number, and you see it in the comments we get online, of having never experienced a club that reached out to them and brought them into their element, asked for their opinion, met with them, broke bread with them, right? I mean, to me, these seem, we didn't do this to be groundbreakers or to kind of create some new precedent. We assumed that this was standard operating procedure. I love to meet our fans. I love to meet them virtually as well as physically. And so it's been a fantastic experience interacting with them. And what's really gratifying is we're getting people saying things online like, you know, I'm a diehard Hilal fan, but now you're our number, you know, you're my number 2 club. Or people are saying, because of the way you're treating your fans and engaging with them, I've been converted to being one of your fans. So that's the most we could ask for. This is going to be an incredibly challenging year. We are going to do everything we can to reach out to you in your element, to bring you into the club, to make you feel valued. We need you far more than any other big boys need you, right? It's really easy today to be a fan of Al Hilal, Al Nasser, Al Ittihad, Al Ahly, of course, even today, especially. But it's fun and hard to be a fan of our club. Just because your parents, your friends, your family were supporting the big boys or other clubs for years doesn't mean you don't have the choice to choose us. And we would be honored if you would choose us. We desperately need you. We are in a very challenging condition today, but we will be the club that reaches out to you, engages with you, asks your opinion, adjusts our course to meet your needs, finds a way to make a very inclusive, both virtual and physical community. And we need your support, your patience, your love, and of course, your physical presence in the stadium more than ever. And I hope you'll join us on this journey.